I am not impressed. Welcome back to Slightly Unfair Reviews. I am Captain Xavier, and today I'm going to be reviewing hammer-primed 8-round revolver pistols. So if you're wondering why this blaster or that blaster or these blasters or those blasters weren't included, ask yourself, is it a hammer-primed 8-round revolver pistol? And if not, that's probably why it wasn't included. If it is, then I probably just forgot that it existed, or never knew it existed, or didn't have one. Point is, these are the blasters that I'm going to be reviewing today. Kindly come to grips with this. Let's take a look at the lineup. Starting at this end, we have the Busby Toys Adventure Force Thundershot. From the Nerf Alpha Strike line, we have the Hammerstorm. From the Nerf Doomlands line, we have the Negotiator. And finally, for the slightly unfair portion, we have my modified Nerf Zombie Strike Hammershot with the blaster parts metal hammer and trigger and the Gavin Fuzzy 8-round cylinder, which is of course why a Hammershot made it onto the table. I'm going to be comparing them in a number of different ways. I'm going to look at their price, their performance, their ergonomics, their aesthetics, their functionality, their features, their modability. But first, let's get to the range and do some plinking because we all like the foam flinging part of these videos the most. Then we shall come back, and there shall be blather. Here we go. Right, we're here on the range, and I'm going to try to plink the 25 with each blaster. First, firing their original ammo, so in this case it will be the long distance darts, and with the Nerf blasters it will be elite darts. We'll see how well that goes. And then I'll fire them all again with Adventure Force waffle tips as a standardization. So let's take a look. Can I hit anything at all? Still no. I'll aim up a little bit. Oh, got the range. A ping! Train! A ping train! Aha! I got a bottle! I wasn't aiming for a bottle, but I got it anyway. Alright. Here comes that train. Let's try it with Adventure Force waffles. Waffles! Here we go. I got a ping. A ping! That was actually better than I expected. It was better with the long distance ones. They had a little bit more power, I felt, though. Let's try the Hammerstorm. Hammerstorm with elite darts. This ought to be amusing. Can I hit anything? No. No. Decidedly no. Nope. I hit! Who would have thunk it? Good. One more. I got a bottle! I wasn't aiming for the bottle. I was aiming for the big pie pan. I hit the bottle. That elite accuracy, though. Let's try it with the waffles. Should have had a waffle for breakfast this morning. I didn't. I had toast. Here we go. The pings say it all, I feel. I think the ones that I missed were more on me. Pretty groovy. All right, the Negotiator. Does it have any better chance of hitting anything with the elites? Let's find out. I hit a tree. Nope. Nope. Lord, have mercy. Nary so much. to the waffles. Now we negotiate waffles. Definitely better. Definitely better. One to go. I won't really say this was ever meant for elite darts because the cylinder, it's got the upgraded cylinder, but I'm going to start with elite darts anyway for the lulz. Here we go. I hit. Oh, I know. Rotate. They're everywhere. I managed to get a hit, 2 hits. Did I get 2 hits? I don't remember anymore. Waffles! Waffles is what we need. I really do need to open this thing up and tune it. Hits go! Can I hit anything? Yes. Oh, a little short. Again, the waffles have it. All right. Now for the discussion, for the blather. Back to the shop. Right, so performance was more or less what I expected. They all performed better accuracy-wise with the Adventure Force waffles. This one didn't perform great with anything, but it wasn't terrible, though I am starting to have some performance issues with it. A lot of people, or not, I don't know about a lot of people, but at least some people have said they've had theirs break right out of the box. And I haven't put this thing through too much abuse, but it is starting to get a little finicky. These ones all performed really pretty much the same. FPS-wise, these three were pretty much identical in the low or mid-50s to upper mid-60s, and this one was in the low to mid-70s. This one could definitely be performing better, but I haven't tuned it in entirely too long. So that's on me. Now, let's start by talking about cost, because that's another one of those straight numbers. This is the cheapest, coming in at $10, and you get what you pay for, I feel. It performs well enough to be worth the $10. Generally, for $10 in Nerf blasters, you're likely to get a single-shot rear-primed pistol, whereas here you've got a hammer-primed 8-round revolver. That's, I think, fairly good for $10. The structural integrity could definitely better, and I would definitely recommend that Busby up their quality control a little bit. Just because if they're starting to break often, that's a PR nightmare. This one came in at $15. This is from the Alpha Strike line, which was Hasbro's economic line, as it were. Their cheaper line. The blasters were constructed mostly with clips and not screws, but they did perform fairly decently, and most of the ones that I've tested so far upgrade decently. They're just not great ergonomically for a lot of reasons, but this one is an exception to that, I feel. It is definitely higher quality than most of the Alpha Strike line, but it does still have a little bit of that feel of cost cutting that got it to the $15 range. The Doomlands Negotiator was not the inexpensive one. This one came in at $20 retail, and is it worth that much? I don't know. Some people might think so, some people might not. It definitely has the higher quality feel to it. It's got the 8-round capacity, so that's probably where the extra money is coming from compared to some of the earlier hammer-primed revolvers. There is also a lot of excess material that probably brought the cost up a little bit, but we'll go into its other good and bad qualities later. And then finally, we have the upgraded hammer shot, and this one is definitely the most expensive. The hammer shot itself was $15, which puts it at the same level as the Hammer Storm, but 3 rounds less ammunition capacity stock. This one has the metal hammer and trigger, which is another, I believe, $21, bringing us up to $36 at that point, and then the hammer, or the cylinder, is going to be another $26, obviously plus shipping. So you're looking at least $70 for this build, and is it worth that? I would find it actually kind of hard to justify that. The hammer and trigger were given to me by Luchathor, and I think I bought the cylinder. It might have been sent to me for review. I don't remember. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was sent for review. Anyway, it's definite. I mean, it costs more than all the rest of them put together. So, is it that much better? Depends on what you like. There are additional features that I will go into about it, but that's the cost. Let's talk about quality. I kind of covered that in cost. The plastic quality on this is definitely inferior to the Hasbro blasters. Especially the grip. It definitely feels more brittle. It feels like it might crack or even shatter if you dropped it on, say, concrete. The priming mechanism definitely has a lot more slop to it and is definitely far, far weaker. And that's a definite detriment. Again, it's the $10 blaster, but I would like anything that I bought from, you know, a reasonably large company, you know, at Walmart level stuff to be a little bit higher quality. Performance-wise, though, it did perform as well as the others. It's just a question of how long will it continue to perform as well as the others. So, yeah. Again, plastic quality on this one being Hasbro. It is, again, the lesser one, and there is a bit of a feel of that, but not a whole lot. The cylinder definitely seems to be a different plastic than a lot of others, and I wonder if that is a cost-cutting measure, but it doesn't seem to be a bad plastic or an inferior plastic. It just feels different. But the shell definitely feels the same as most, so Doomland's perfectly good, solid quality. The plastic that we've, you know, come to know about Hasbro, it's a good solid, I believe, ABS plastic. And the priming mechanism, as with this one, is very smooth, very sound, very solid. It feels like it's caught. It's definitely not going to accidentally release. It operates smoothly. I don't have any issues with it. The rotation is flawless. Very good quality. And then, obviously, we all know how I feel about this one. The upgraded metal parts are magnificent. They get rid of any concern about the catch not being able to support a heavier spring. The cylinder is Gavin Fuzzy quality print, which means it is absolutely magnificent. As I have said, I do need to open this one up and service it, which is something you have to do with any modded blaster if you want to keep it moving. You really have to do it with anything that has moving parts. I need to go in, check, make sure that the cylinder hasn't warped. It is catching a little bit on one of the cylinders, and I think that's just a matter of filing the 3D print a little bit and adding some lube, but the quality of the hammer shot was obviously top-notch. It's still one of my favorite blasters that Hasbro has ever produced. Let's talk about ergonomics, because that's where there's some serious differences. This one is tragically an ergonomic nightmare, which has often been something that has been an issue for me with Busby blasters, but I don't feel that it's entirely fair to hold it against them, because my biggest gripe is that the grip is too small. But this is a kid's toy, so me with my relatively large hands for my size, it's understandable that a kid's toy is not going to fit my hand as well as it could. The grip, yeah, my hand doesn't quite fit. It also, there's the matter of not being able to actually prime it using your thumb. If you're holding the blaster correctly, or correctly the way to hold a pistol, you cannot reach it with your thumb without completely altering your grip, and it's very awkward and uncomfortable. If I hold it with my middle finger, then I can, but it still requires a slightly awkward shifting of the grip, which isn't particularly great. So that's kind of, you know, a bummer. I think they definitely could have redesigned the hammer in such a way that you could have reached it with your thumb, or they could have just brought the whole mechanism down a little bit. I wasn't there when they engineered it, so I don't know. It is clearly designed to be primed with your other hand, either with your other thumb or fanning it or something. So that's kind of my feelings on that. This one, the grip is incredibly comfortable in my opinion. I very much like it, and I've always been a fan of knuckle duster style guards. You can definitely reach it, prime it just fine, there's no problem there. The back end is pretty much identical to the hammer shot, almost to the point that I wonder if the internals aren't swappable. I doubt the trigger is, as the trigger guard on this one seems larger, but it almost looks like the hammer might be. I doubt they are, but it's very, very similar, and as a result, it's equally comfortable and easy to operate. So the ergonomics on this one, very, very nice. It's a little bit long, but it does have some added features as a result of that. Now, a lot of the pistols in the Doomland line, especially the smaller ones, I find to be some of the most ergonomically horrific blasters ever, and they're genuinely painful for me to try to operate. This isn't one of them. On an awful lot of them, the section right here between the trigger and the grip is so small that it crushes my hand if I'm holding it properly, or my top finger, and is just genuinely uncomfortable. This does not have that problem. This one is actually quite comfortable. I actually really do like the grip. It does have a sling mount, but it's not in a position that it reduces the amount of grip you can get like the Strife did. So this one is quite nice. And again, you can actually I can reach the hammer on this one easier than I can on that one. And it's just very nice, ergonomical. And the hammer shot, you know, you're really not going to hear me say anything bad about the hammer shot. You probably get used to that. Again, the grip is nice. A lot of people don't like the grip tape, the fake grip tape, but I'm with them on that. And I will often cover it with real grip tape just so it looks and feels a little bit better. And there are options for getting rid of that. But again, it's very easy to reach the hammer. This one has the extended hammer, which gives you more leverage when priming it. If you've put a heavier spring in, it makes it a lot easier to prime a really heavy spring. And then, you know, the metal internals are able to handle that. So, ergonomically, these ones are all very similar. Let's talk about aesthetics, the design of the thing. This thing is clearly designed to be a ridiculous, massive, gaudy hand cannon. And I'm perfectly okay with that. It's got the flared barrel like the Fortnite blasters. It's gaudy colors. This is very definitely a toy. And I have no issue with a toy company making their toys look like toys. If you're into the giant hand cannon, there's a lot of different like cosplays. This would make something good for like a Joker cosplay because of how ridiculous and huge it is. There are plenty of other scenarios where something that's this big and ridiculous is perfectly okay. So I don't have an issue with that. The only design issue, of course, is that you can't actually prime it with your hand. But other than that, I don't mind it. And I really like the fact that the way it's designed makes it easy to change the cosmetics, which we'll get into when I discuss Modifiability. This one I'm not as much of a fan of aesthetically. I like that it has the handguard, and that's just a carryover from my sword fighting days when I'd get my hand crushed constantly, and so I learned to really like anything that protected my fingers. Now, I'm never going to be using this in a situation where I'm going to be using it to guard my hands, but it's just something in the back of my head. I like handguards like that. It does have, for additional features, it does have ammo storage. It's got enough for a full reload of ammo, though it's sticking out sideways, which can lead to it getting damaged or crushed or whatnot. It does oddly have a whole bunch of sling mounts on it, which is kind of odd for a pistol, though all of the Hasbro ones have that. It does also have top and bottom rail and a barrel lug, so you can put an odd number of attachments on this pistol. It doesn't have any kind of a stock attachment point, but you know, it is, however, way bigger than it needs to be, in my opinion. Or rather, it's larger than it would need to be if you were wanting it to be a sidearm. All of this material down here is completely unnecessary. There's a lot of material up here that is unnecessary. This whole section from here forward is arguably unnecessary. The barrel attachment lug, while neat, is certainly unnecessary. Of course, nothing in any of this is necessary, but they could have made this much smaller and svelter and had a really nice fairly compact 8-round revolver, and I think I definitely would have liked that better. I did pick up a pair of these for use in a non-practical sense that involves the top and bottom rail. So you will get to see me run these in a war at my place at some point. Maybe not this next one, probably not the one after that, but eventually you'll get to see me run a pair of these in a war because of the way they're designed. So, not great. It would be very difficult to holster this because of how big it is. You could put like magnetic holsters on it, but it's kind of not worth it in my opinion. But there are elements that I like about it, and it does paint up nicely and has some interesting greebles and stuff like that. But for crazy aesthetics, this one really kind of takes the cake because it's from the Doomlands line, which was always that post-apocalyptic, cyberpunk, could be steampunk, depending on how you wanted to paint it. There's rivets and beams and greebles and pipes, and you can definitely paint these up to be really, really cool and to fit any kind of interesting cosmetic thing. The downside is, of course, the same problem here, is that there is so much wasted material here. The top is way higher than it needs to be. You don't need anything above this point. Down here, there's also just a lot of unnecessary fluff stuff material, which undoubtedly increased the cost. But that is also where the cosmetic interestingness, I don't think that's a word. That is what makes it cosmetically interesting, is that it has all of that extra material and you can do a lot with that. So for cosplay purposes, for all sorts of cosmetic purposes, this is definitely a fascinating blaster cosmetically and aesthetically. And then of course you have the hammer shot, which once again you will hear nothing bad from me. The only thing I never much cared for was the fake wrap, but I would just cover that with real wrap if it really bugged me. But this being from the Zombie Strike line, early Zombie Strike line, they hadn't yet gone with the whole made out of parts from a hardware store look that a lot of the newer ones have. Which is a neat aesthetic, but not my aesthetic. This is just a perfectly utilitarian blaster. And it has very little unnecessary material. They made this as small as possible. It'll fit in a AA K pouch. There are 3D printed holsters for it. The 3D printed solid one is fabulous. It won't take any of the various cosmetic kits that exist, but this doesn't have any that interfere with those holsters. So this has been my primary, my sidearm for HVZ for a very long time, because it is so small and compact and yet holds 8 rounds. So it has saved me more than once, and I've always loved the hammer shot, and I will always. There's a reason it's been around for so long. Let's talk about Modifiability. So, back to this one first. Cosmetically, there is a plethora of options for this. The barrel is easily removed, the grip is easily removed. The whole thing comes apart with 9 screws. The internals come out in one big piece. Would be incredibly easy to paint this to be whatever color you wanted. It would be easy to put on different barrels or to get rid of the barrel altogether. In its natural state, it's a ridiculous, gaudy hand cannon, but you can simply remove all of this orange barrel, at which point it's pretty much the exact same size as a hammer shot. It would probably fit in a AA K pouch. It wouldn't fit in a lot of other holsters, but there is a lot of potential there cosmetically to make it be, more interesting, less cartoonish, or even more cartoonish, or just svelter, smaller profile, better grip. All of that is definitely possible, and could improve this a great deal. If we wanted to improve it for performance, we're almost certainly going to have to replace the hammer and trigger with a better one. Or if you can get the black catch one, then there's a little bit more potential there. But again, I don't know how much yet because I haven't gotten my hands on one. Though I hopefully will. I have been offered a few, and I will probably take everybody up on them. But we would need something like metal hammer and trigger if we really wanted to put a heavier spring in this and try to get as much out of it as we could. And it may prove to not be worth it. There may be other parts of this blaster that end up proving unsuitable for heavy mods. But I think there is definitely potential there, and only the future will tell what we can really do with this one. These two pretty much have very similar mod potential in that internally they're hammer shots. They have the spring that compresses down into the grip, and there are any number of replacement springs for them, and they will all work in both of these, and will give you a bigger boost. I don't know of any replacement cylinders for these, because these are the higher capacity cylinders. It would probably be possible to get at least 1, maybe 2 more darts in there if you made it as tight a fit as they have on the hammer shots. It still baffles me that they managed to get 8 into a cylinder that was the size for 5. So I wouldn't be surprised if you could get up to 10 in one of these. Maybe, maybe not. Definitely 9, I'm sure. But I don't know that anybody has, because they weren't really worth it. This was such a better package in so many ways, and this just wasn't worth the work to improve it too much. You can minimize them if you really want to. I've seen it done, but it's a lot of work to get this down to a smaller size because of, you'd have to cut off large sections and cover them up or fill them in, and it is possible, but it's not particularly easy. It's nowhere as easy as it would be to take off the larger, gaudier sections of this. The hammer shot, of course, having been on the shelves for so long and having been such an incredibly popular blaster, there are all kinds of upgrades for it. There are For just swap drop-in cylinders, they've got 6, 7, and 8 round cylinders. There are also cylinders that will fire mega, and then Radioactive has designed ones that will fire, that are, each barrel is an inline clip that holds up to, I think his max is 32 rounds in a hammer shot, and it fires one from each inline clip barrel as it rotates through, which is absolutely ridiculous and magnificent, and I need to get around to building a couple of them. There are also all kinds of cosmetic barrels for them, there are scales for them, there are several different both metal and resin cast replacement hammers and triggers for them. There is a great deal of mod potential. There are several different weights of springs for them. And that's largely a result of it starting out as a really good platform and having been on the shelves for so long that we were able to develop all of those. That's often what will prevent a blaster that may have been a decent platform from modding from ever getting its true due, is that they don't end up on the shelves for very long. They don't sell well, or they were only ever going to be on the shelf for a year or what have you, whereas things like the Strife and the Hammershot were on the shelves for many, many years and are in fact still available through some places. And so there's a huge variety of upgraded parts for them. So, yeah, I think that pretty much covers what it is I wanted to talk about all of these. It is a very narrow subset of blasters, hammer-primed 8-round revolver pistols. But there was a variety of them, and since this was the blaster that's been going around at the moment, I figured this was a perfectly good opportunity to do another slightly unfair review. I don't know how unfair it is. This one doesn't outperform these by any huge amount compared to, like, when I reviewed Tyr and the miniguns. That was just not even in the same league. This one has slightly better performance, but it doesn't have any higher capacity. Definitely better ergonomics, but is way more expensive. So, this one, definitely the bottom of the list, the worst performance, the least structural integrity and all of that, but it is also half the price of some of the other ones, and a sixth or seventh the price of some. So, yeah, that's my take on these. Do let me know what you guys think of this comparison, how fair or unfair you felt it was, and do feel free to leave a comment on what blasters you think would make a good option for this, what category of blasters you'd like to see. And specifically which blasters. And I want to make sure that they are blasters from different brands. Now, a lot of the ones, most of the ones here were from Hasbro because no one else, this is the first time anyone else has made a Hammer Prime blaster. But most of the big companies, Buzzbee and Dart Zone and all of them, X-Shot, there's generally an equivalent of a given blaster from each company, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to review, is reviewing different ones from different companies. So keep that in mind when you give recommendations, but I am looking for recommendations for things that you guys would like to see. So, there you have it. Thank you for watching. Whoa.